When we find ourselves in a state of emergency, how is it possible for us to follow the common advice of staying calm? My name is Amy Patterson. I'm the founder of Patterson Insurance Services. And since most of our community is in that high risk group for this coronavirus in 2020, I wanted to speak with wellness expert psychologist Dr. Dicken.bettinger and ask him what can we do to reduce the level of anxiety, worry, and stress that we may be experiencing as a result of this recent pandemic. Let's listen to what Dr. Bettinger has to say on the topic.
Well, thanks, Amy, for having me on. I've been a psychologist for 40 years, and the focus of my career has been on well-being. And so I'm very interested in the psychological well-being of people, and so I'm glad you asked me to come on. I wrote a book on well-being called Coming Home. I travel around the world giving seminars in well-being. So we've learned a lot that I think can really practically be of practical help to people as they go through this. My wife and I are doing fine. We're staying at home, and trying to flatten the curve, as they say, and certainly listening to and following all the recommended precautions, and I think that's very important. It's very interesting, Amy. About 4 days ago, my wife came down with a fever, and it lasted for a few days, and we got very concerned, but we've since found out that she just has the flu. But I had a chance to certainly had my moments of anxiety and concern and worry, and I just want to say we're built to have feelings. And it's normal to have feelings of any kind. And there's no feeling in and of itself that becomes problematic for people. What does become problematic is when we get stuck in painful feelings, when we get stuck in panic, or we get stuck in worry, or we get stuck in anxiety, or get stuck in stress. That's a problem for all of us, for any of us. And none of us like the feeling of being stuck in those contracted, uncomfortable feelings. And, we hear all the time that it's important for us to stay calm. And, I know a lot of people are scratching their heads and saying, yeah, but there's a lot to be concerned about and worry about. And how do I stay calm? And why is that so important? This is a very important situation. And so that's what I want to talk about. What it means to stay calm. First of all, why would we want to stay calm? Well, we know that stress takes a toll on anybody, and then it makes it harder to sleep, and it makes it harder to be clear-headed. Why do we want to be clear-headed? So we can make good decisions during these difficult times. So they always tell people, in case of an emergency or a crisis, stay calm. They don't tell people, just think yourself into a frenzy, and that'll be helpful to you in any way. I want to say that calm does not mean being in a happy feeling all the time. Calm means be just basically not being caught up in thinking in a way that keeps us locked into worry or upset or stress. That's what it means. It's possible to have all of those feelings in a calm way so that they just flow through. In healthy functioning, people have all kinds of feelings, but they don't get stuck, they keep flowing. So I want to talk about the one thing I think is most important for people to understand so that we can learn what it means to be calm in any circumstance, in any situation. How's that sound?
Perfect, because I can imagine a couple listeners are, well, what do you mean, Dicken? I get stuck in feelings all the time. What's this flow? If I could do it, I would.
Well, we have done it. We have done it, and you watch little kids. They have all kinds of feelings, but they come and go very quickly. It's what we call resilience.
Yeah,
we're all born resilient, which means we get over things quickly. They flow through us quickly, and so I want to talk about what any of us can learn that will help us be more resilient, or more like we were when we were kids, or more like we are even now at times. You can see people worrying and upset, and then they get distracted and they stop thinking about what they were thinking about. And what happens? The worry and distress temporarily goes away, and people go, oh, what's for lunch? Or they say, oh, hi, a friend just called. It's good to hear from you. And so resilience is built into us. And there's only one misunderstanding that human beings have that leads to us becoming less and less resilient. And so there's one thing people can learn that helps us become more resilient again. And
sounds practical.
This is a profound new discovery in the field of psychology, and it's spreading around the world now like crazy. It's being taught in businesses and schools, and with people of all ages. Kids in elementary schools, grade schools, high schools, colleges. So we're excited about this new discovery because it can help people regain their well-being or regain their resilience. And it's certainly helpful during going through something like this time when we're asked to make significant lifestyle changes. So here's the key. Here's the key. It's understanding that the power of thought creates every moment of our experience. The power of thought creates all of our feelings. That's the key. The misunderstanding is when people think their feelings come from someplace other than thought. That's what gets us into trouble. So if let me explain how it works, how it's always worked, and how it always will work for human beings. This is a fundamental, universal principle behind human psychological functioning. Whatever we think, we feel. That's always been true. You have sad thoughts, you feel sad. You have anxious thoughts, you feel anxious. You have loving thoughts, you feel loving. It always works that way. We can't not feel what we think. Another way of saying this, it's normal to feel whatever we think. It's not wrong or bad to have any feelings, but it makes a big, big difference where we think our feelings come from. Now listen, This is now very scientific. We know that this power of thought generates mental activity, and that whatever thoughts are created in our head, that's what we're going to feel, no matter what the circumstance. It's very scientific. And yet, it's not well known. I travel the world. I ask people, what are you feeling? And I get all kinds of feelings. There's no wrong answer to that ever. We all have feelings. I feel stress or upset or tense. But the second question is the interesting one. So you say, what are you feeling? And then whatever you're feeling, where do you think that feeling comes from? And I would say probably 99% of the time, people say something other than thought. They think traffic can create feelings in us. They think a lot of work can create stress in us. They think what our kids are doing can create upset in us. That people think that when they feel happy, that it's created by something outside, something they did. I went for a walk, I felt happy. Now, the problem with seeing the world that way, it's not scientific, it doesn't work that way. If we have a lot of work, there could be 10 people with the same amount of work, and I guarantee you everybody will have a different experience. Some people will be excited about what they're doing. Some people will feel tense. Some people will feel stressed, and some people will feel completely overwhelmed with the same task. You put 10 people in traffic with a traffic jam. If you interviewed everybody in all the cars, some people would say, oh, you know, when there's a traffic jam, that's just the way it goes. I get a chance to sit back and relax and listen to a podcast by Amy Leo, or I get to relax and enjoy this. And other people are feeling road rage and are enraged. People, it's not circumstance that determines our experience. It's what we're thinking. And because this hasn't been taught, because this is relatively new to society and psychology, we're doing the best we can to spread the word about this all over the world because, like I said, I have never found anything in my whole career that helps people become calmer overall, to have more well-being overall, to be more resilient overall. So if we think that this present situation is causing our anxiety, we're helpless. It's being done to us. Circumstances creating our experience is a frightening world to live in. So we get more frightened and more insecure. It seems like it's something out of our control. As people begin to learn that it's our own thinking that keeps alive whatever we're feeling. For example, let's say I start worrying. If I don't know that it's being created by my own thinking, I'll keep thinking about whatever I think the problem is. And let's say I worry for an hour. When people don't know that it's their thinking, they keep thinking a lot. They do a lot of thinking. We innocently, all of us, we get caught up in our thinking when we don't know that it's our own thinking doing it. Now, here's what I'm seeing with people that I'm sharing this with all over the world. The same thing starts to happen. When people realize it's my own thinking that's keeping my worry alive right now, at some point you just realize, oh, wait a minute. Why would I keep thinking about this if it keeps making me feel bad? And people come back to the present moment In the present moment, that's the only place we can find our well-being. It's the only place we can find resilience. Because when we're in the present moment, we're like little kids, and whatever we think flows through us, whatever we feel flows through us, we're very resilient. Without that understanding, we keep doing a lot of thinking. I can get angry, feel angry. I have angry thoughts creating that feeling. That's normal. If I don't know where it's coming from, I'll think it's coming from another person. So I'll keep thinking about them, what they did, what I should do about it, what it means, how to deal with it. And all of that thinking keeps creating more feeling. What kind of feeling? Tension, stress, upset. Innocently. It's all innocent. Why is that? We haven't learned that this is how it works. That's why I'm on your show, Amy. I want everybody to know this. People all over the world now are sharing this with their kids and with their grandkids, and as I'm doing now, and just living from that understanding, and it's reducing dramatically the amount of stress and worry and upset that people live in.
So are you basically kind of saying that this is all in our heads? Because I can imagine that there's going to be some listeners that say, well, no, sir, there really is this issue going on. This isn't all in my head. I'm not imagining this happening.
Thank you for that question. This is not denying that anything outside of us is happening and that horrible things don't happen and that difficult, challenging things don't happen. That's always true. But how we think about what's happening determines our experience. Here's a metaphor. Say you're driving your car, it's pouring rain, it's really hard to see. You're on an expressway, so you're going quite fast. You really need to have good visibility. Now, if you didn't know you had a windshield wiper, you're innocently putting yourself in danger. And by turning on the windshield wiper, which is allowing your thinking to flow, coming back to the now, you're not denying that it's raining. You're not denying that there's traffic. You're not denying that you have to successfully navigate this traffic safely. It's just there's never a downside to being more clear-headed in any circumstance. That's why they say, in case of emergency, stay calm. They don't say, in case of emergency, worry yourself sick. Why is that? We don't see as well. We're not as clear. We don't have as much common sense, which is available to anybody when they're clear-headed and in the now. And common sense is what we need to be able to deal with extremely difficult circumstance. Any circumstance. So it's not denying anything. It's just allowing us to be more present to life without being so caught up in stressful thinking that burdens us and weighs on us. All right? No downside to being more resilient, to being clearer, to making better decisions, to having more common sense.
I think that's interesting because I think that sometimes we've been taught that it's irresponsible not to worry about certain things. Can you speak to that a little bit, and maybe also the scientific, reasoning, what's happening in the brain when people are very stressed out versus when they are calmer? Why, what's behind that recommendation, stay calm specifically?
Well, I think everybody has experienced the difference. If you're trying to make an important decision about anything, we've all experienced thinking about it so hard and in such a way that we get so stressed that we can't think clearly. And it just seems extremely difficult to make a clear decision. I think everybody has experienced that. And I think everybody's experienced times when our head have been clear. And when our head's been clear, suddenly we know exactly what we need to do, and it just occurs to us. They asked 600 CEOs of companies, presidents of companies, when do you make your best decisions? Not a single one of them said when they were stressed out or worried or upset. Not a single one. They all said, when my head is clear, like when I'm in the shower, driving a car, or on vacation, they all said that's when they had their best experiences. And that's true of all human beings. We make our best decisions about how to deal with life when our heads are clear. When I'm caught up in my thinking, I am just like everybody else in the world. I don't see clearly. And so that's the benefit of staying calm is everybody, when they're in the now, in the present moment, whatever they're thinking is, whatever thinking they have will flow and clear away. It's built for that. We always get over things, and we get over things faster in the now than when we leave the now to worry about something. And then, as long as we think that way, we'll feel that way. Right? So, beginning to understand that every human being, we're all the same. We're all thinking all the time. We're all feeling our thinking all the time. We can't not do that. That's being as human as you can get. And either we understand that our feelings are created from within via thought, or we make the assumption that it's coming from outside. And in test after test, there have been endless tests that have been shown that stress in people is not caused by circumstance. It's created by the mindset of the person in that situation. Because you take the most stressful situations in the world, and there's always people who stay calm. There's always people who panic. And again, nothing wrong with either. Both are normal. But the more we begin to realize for ourselves that it's our own thinking that keeps alive what we're feeling, we begin to not hold on to that thinking for as long. And when it clears away, which it always does when it clears away, when we feel better and have less thinking on the windscreen of our mind, the windshield of our mind, when we have less thinking clouding our vision, we're better able to drive safely through life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the vision that comes to mind is when we're caught up and preoccupied with all this anxiety and stress. It's almost like wearing very dark sunglasses as we approach a problem. And coming from a place of, again, recognizing this is the reality, this is happening, but realizing that our own inner turmoil is exacerbated, is caused by, perhaps you'd use that direct word, is caused by how we're thinking about it in that moment. It allows us to take off the glasses and then approach it more practically and do what we need to do.
That's right. Approach it. I want people to learn how to take care of business. It's not take stress of business, it's take care of business. Caring is different than worrying.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier, a lot of people make the assumption, if I'm not worrying, it shows I don't care. That's the old psychology, and it no longer makes sense with the new science and the new psychology. If we really care, All that means is when we're in the now, we're free to have any feeling, but it flows through us. And when we're in the now, we have all the common sense we need to carefully respond to situations or to other people.
Mm.
We really genuinely then can take care. And it doesn't mean being unfeeling. It means allowing it to flow through so we stay resilient. It means waking up out of thinking that's not being helpful to us or not necessary, falling open so we can use our minds more wisely and be more feelingful, more caring. So it actually allows us to feel our feelings even more directly without being frightened of them, without disliking them, without judging them. I feel stress, I get worried, I get upset. And if I know it's thought, it's just thought in the moment that in the now will flow through and pass. It always does, it always has. And if I don't understand that, I'll be like anybody else and I'll keep thinking about it and it'll keep alive those feelings. And then it starts taking a toll on me.
Yeah.
Like anybody else, we're all in this together, Amy. No one gets to escape being a human being and being a thinker and experiencing our thinking.
Yeah. So I want to make a clarification then, just for the folks that, again, may be thinking that you're still kind of talking about positive thinking, or, kind of sticking your head in the sand and saying, oh, la di da di da.
Yeah.
It seems to me you're not speaking about that. You're speaking about something much maybe deeper or fundamental to that.
If I'm caught up in my positive thinking and thinking about things positively, I'm still not in the now.
Mm.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
It's not about trying to be positive. It's coming back to our natural state of mind that we're born into, where every thought and feeling is free to come and go naturally. So we're not denying, we're not avoiding, we're not fighting, we're not judging our experience. That's what well-being is, being comfortable in the face of these experiences, understanding them so that they can flow through, which allows us to stay present and clear and have all the common sense we need to deal with whatever is going on in our life. But it's not trying to think positive. That's still doing thinking that takes us out of the now. When we let go of everything we're thinking, both positive and so-called negative, I don't see it as negative, but when we let go of everything we're thinking, we don't lose anything of value. We lose our stress and tension and upset. And when we're in the now, any human being deals with things more effectively. That's why they keep saying, in case of emergency, stay calm, so that we can most effectively deal with whatever challenge is in front of us.
Yeah, this notion of, or this clarification that you've made about really just being in the now and being present to what's actually existing, I can see that could be beneficial to how a lot of folks are worrying about loved ones right now, because that's very common. Again, we've got our Finnish grandmother, over in Finland, and certainly my husband and I have been worried about her. And yeah, I wonder if you could speak to that again. So not only just worry about yourself, but also the loved ones, like with your wife when she had the fever, for instance.
I'll make this really practical and personal. My wife and I are here at home. I'm 72. My wife is 72. I have asthma. I've had my spleen removed. I'm high risk in terms of the virus and the effect it would have on me. So we're at home, and because I've been learning about what I've been sharing with people, the more we allow our experience to flow through us, the calmer and more present we become to life. And when we do, this is a very important point, always when people's heads clear, they start to not only think more clearly, but they always start to feel better, feel more connected to people in life in a positive way. If we go for a walk in the woods, in nature, and we're caught up in our thinking, we don't experience beauty. When our head's clear, we start seeing beauty around us. When we're with people, when we're really caught up in our thinking, we don't experience caring and connection and love with that person at that moment. When our head clears, we start feeling closer and closer to the people around us. Okay, so my wife and I are at home, and in our calm and in these deeper feelings of love and connection, we're reaching out to everybody that comes to mind and sending them love letters and calling them and telling them how much we love them and care for them and are praying for their well-being or sending love or wishing them well. And the appropriate response to negativity in the world is to quiet down. As our minds quiet down, our hearts open up, and to literally help bring more love and more caring and more compassion into the world. That's how we create a healthier family, a healthier community, and a healthier world. And each of us can play a part in that. People are sending uplifting poems to each other or on Facebook. People are posting uplifting. It's not denying the reality of the situation. The Italian, I just saw in the New York Times this beautiful article, and then I saw a video of at a certain hour, all the Italians in cities all over Italy came out on their balconies and they sang their thanks to all the healthcare workers in the country. What a beautiful gesture. What a kind gesture. So rather than bringing more and more upset and worry into the world, by understanding that, we are able to bring more love and kindness, little acts of kindness into the world. And what a beautiful way to live at any moment in time.
Yeah, absolutely. When you've been sharing, I've been actually thinking about my journey when my grandmother got ill and then passed away. And of course, everyone does have their own unique reaction to those things and own experience because of that X factor, your interpretation, your meaning in the moment, your thinking in the moment. But it really was such a difference for me just being present with her when she was alive, and it like frees up the bandwidth to really have a rich experience. And there's so much we can't control as human beings. I think that can make us uncomfortable, but I have no regrets during that time period because I wasn't trying to control her behaviors. You know, she ended up passing away of lung cancer and she was still asking for cigarettes, you know, and I remember thinking like, oh gosh, please don't ask me for that, Graham, you know, but instead of kind of putting my judgment on her and maybe shaming her for doing that, it's just like, okay, you know, go out, get the groceries and spend time with her and value her as a human being and her own life journey in our relationship. And that made a very big difference because I was able to have more time. It's like you can squeeze more out of the time that you have together, I think.
I love what you're saying about by being present to people who are going through difficult times. Like, I know some of the listeners will be with family or friends who really are innocently caught up in thinking that is making their lives very uncomfortable. And the power of warm-hearted presence is probably the greatest gift we can give to anybody. For example, my daughter called my wife and I up the other day, and she was crying, and she was so sad that her kids have to go through, be in the world at this time, and with the virus and the environmental crisis, and now with social distancing, it's hard for them to play with their friends. And she was just sad. Now, remember, I said all feelings are normal. There's nothing wrong with feelings. We're not trying to control or get rid of feelings, but understanding allows all of us to come back to warm-hearted presence. And so my wife and I just listened and were warm and loving. And then later, because she also has this understanding about thought, she's very resilient. It means you're able to get over the natural, normal downtimes we have more gracefully, more easily. When because of her resilience, she came back up into clarity and her heart. And she wrote this beautiful post about how normal it is to have all of these feelings and that we can then extend warmth and kindness. And she shared what she was doing and how going out for walks and appreciating the beauty all around was helpful. Fortunately, we live in a place where we can do that easily. So it's coming back. Remember at the beginning, I said there's one key is understanding that the power of thought is generating all of our thinking and feeling in every moment. In the same way, the power of electricity is generating the power necessary for us to use our computer. Things don't just happen on the computer, they need to be brought to life. Well, the power of thought is the energy behind life that knows how to create and bring to life whatever we're experiencing. Some people call that power spirit, or some people call it God. Some people call it the creative energy of life itself. Scientists might call it the quantum field. Some people might call it the formless creative energy of life itself. They're just different words that have been pointing toward this. So life has always worked that way, that the power of thought generates human experience. And we just haven't understood that clearly before. And now by understanding it practically, it's really, really helpful. So I just ask people, next time you're feeling tense or stressed, just step back for a moment and see if you can see that it has anything to do with the thinking you're doing, and see what happens when you let go of that thinking and don't hold it. See what happens to the feeling. And see if that doesn't just allow you to relax again into the now. And I can guarantee you're not avoiding anything. You're running full speed toward open-hearted presence, which is where every one of us is at our best and does our best no matter what we're doing.
That seems practical. It seems practical. Doesn't seem theoretical. I really
haven't found anything that I've learned in all my 72 years that's simpler and more practical. I am so grateful that I met someone that could share with me, a man named Sidney Banks, who shared with me his realization of this is how the human being operates, all of us, universally. We all think, and whatever we think we experience, it's brought to life. And when our head's clear, we all have a knowing that's there for us. You can call it common sense, you can call it intuition, you can call it confidence, clarity, this knowing that allows us to deal with difficulties gracefully.
It's like you just, well, this is kind of a bad one, but this is the only one that's coming to mind. Sorry for the vegans on the call or vegetarians, but there's a phrase like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And there's something immensely practical about taking a breath, reminding yourself the actual reality and knowing that you will keep attending to things as they show up instead of worrying kind of worst case scenario, perhaps, instead of really identifying that as if that imagined scenario has even happened when it hasn't yet. And sometimes our feelings are so strong, I think it's easy to forget that our imagination or our fears for the future are not true right now. They're not what's happening in reality.
Amy, so true. We all forget. I forget. When I forget, I get caught up in my thinking, and it seems like what I'm feeling is connected to the outside rather than in truth connected to my own thinking. That happens to everybody. But thank goodness, once you begin to realize the truth of this, no matter how caught up you get, you can always come home again to the now. You can always go, oh, that's right. What I'm experiencing and my problems have something to do with thought. When I recognize that again, I'm coming back to what's true. Only the truth can set us free. And this has always been true and always will be true. And when we recognize truth, it calms us down.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. It's like waking up from a nightmare you've been in for a long time. When you wake up out of that thinking, which is what a nightmare is, thinking at night. When you wake up out of that thinking, you go, oh, thank God, my nightmare was just a dream.
That's so
You're
true.
not saying the world is a dream. You're saying my thought created reality was created. It's not what I'm thinking is not truth. That comes and goes. Truth is always here.
Yeah.
Always here. So you come back to what's true. And no matter how often we get caught off, thank goodness we can begin to understand what's true and come back to that. And that's how we get grounded during difficult times.
Great. I just have maybe one more piece or one more question before we end today. I know we're a little bit above what we allotted, but that hopefully that's okay. I think it's a really important conversation to have. Some countries have already had lockdowns, so they may be in very close quarters in small spaces with loved ones. You know, if they've got the kids home from school now, and then their spouse. Can you say something about that? What would you recommend for folks that are perhaps in that situation where they're in really tight living quarters with loved ones, and maybe speak to something that I've heard of called separate realities? Maybe that could be something we could just end today's interview with.
Well, remember, everybody is living in the world of their thinking. It's what allows me to have compassion because I know how innocent it is for people to get caught up in their thinking and suffer psychologically. They're not doing it on purpose. They're doing it because they haven't realized the nature of thought and how it creates experience. So it's not their fault. The best advice is if you're in a situation that seems challenging or difficult, is for the moment, stop looking out and just step within. And if you can see that you're living in a thought-created experience, more than anything else, that'll help you have less thinking on your mind that weighs heavily on you and makes things difficult. And as you have less thinking on your mind, that's the best gift you can give to any of your loved ones. Why is that? Because you'll be more present, more open-hearted, more caring, more loving, which is the only thing that works in relationships.
So I'm hearing, if I'm hearing you correctly, the advice is not to go try to fix the behaviors of your loved ones.
I've tried that a lot. It doesn't tend to work.
Yes, fair enough. Me too. But again, it kind of makes sense if we're under that assumption that things outside of us are directly responsible for our feeling, then it would make sense to try and, arrange people into doing things that we would want them to do in order to feel better. But that seems like that's the opposite of what the entire interview has been talking about, and to, invite people to look in a different direction, perhaps. Great, Dickens. So one last question is, if folks could take home one thing from today, what would that be? If you could sum up everything we've talked about in like a sentence or two, what would be your biggest take home for today?
Go out and enjoy your life. Just enjoy your life. Bring more of that feeling of joy or peace or love. Bring more of that love into the world. And then when you find yourself not enjoying life, if you can see that it has something to do with thought, I guarantee it will bring you back to the now. You'll let go of whatever thinking is continuing that you're doing. And the secret here is let go of everything you're thinking, because otherwise you won't come back to the now. You'll still be distracted by what you're thinking about. That's why we don't teach positive thinking. So go and enjoy yourself, enjoy your family, bring love and understanding into the world. And when you're not enjoying it, if you see it as thought, you'll come back to the now and you're good to go.
Well, I hope that you found that interview helpful, at the very least thought-provoking. And if someone you know could get value out of this interview, I really encourage you to share it. This is such an important topic in our current situation. Again, my name is Amy Patterson. I'm the founder of Patterson Insurance Services. And these educational interviews are just one of the many steps that we're taking as an organization to assist our community during this difficult time. Another important factor, you can see that I have a little bit of a sniffle. We've actually been 100% remote serving clients for the past 2 weeks. It will continue that way until further notice. And we are able to fully serve our clients remotely thanks to technology that even has to do with taking applications, having informational phone calls, helping with customer service issues as usual. So that's a wonderful thing. We also are posting important updates on our Facebook page, important updates from what the health insurance companies are doing in regards to this coronavirus pandemic, as well as, again, helpful resources and information to assist you during this time. So if you go to Facebook, Patterson Insurance Services, if you type that in the search button, you'll find our Facebook page and have access to all of our updates. I look forward to connecting with you soon. In the meantime, I wish you and your family nothing but the best, and we will get through this difficult time period together. Again, you can reach us on Facebook at Patterson Insurance Services. We also have a website, pattersonmedicare.com, and our phone number, of course, is still in service, even though we're getting a few more calls than usual as we're helping some of our clients get access to in-home delivery of groceries, for instance, and pre-made meals. So that's another important step in order to flatten the curve, they say, in order to stop the spread of this coronavirus. And last but certainly not least, for those that are worried about a potentially expensive hospital bill, we are having several meetings a day to reach out and educate those in our community who might be a fit for a product called a hospital indemnity plan. These are separate mutual companies, so they're separate from your regular health insurance plan. But the goal of these products is that they actually pay you when you go into the hospital. So these can really help reduce the out-of-pocket costs that someone may face for a hospitalization. And so we have been speaking with a lot of folks in our community to assess if this may be a fit. If you'd like more information, I encourage you to book a meeting with us as well. The meeting link is in the copy below, or again, you can just reach out to us on Facebook or via phone, because of course there are a couple qualifying questions and qualifiers for this kind of product, but we want to let people know that these exist as well. We're really doing our best to try to help reduce the worry and stress that folks are experiencing during this very difficult time in a practical way, the most practical way we can think to do so. Thank you so much for listening. From my family to yours, we wish you nothing but the best during this very difficult time. Thank you.